Welcome back to Let's Play Phoenix Wright, Justice for All. On our last episode, we were putting Miss Andrews on the stand with her fine-looking coke battered body. And, well, I think we've come into a point in which she's being secretive about things. So the one thing we are going to do is we are going to find out about what kind of secrets she actually has to tell us, since we're kind of blowing everything way out in the open. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to get right down to it. And you're going to see it right now. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us the truth about your behavior. Yes, Your Honor. I understand. Protecting Matt. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill one no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him. This does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit. If there are no objections, I feel I can pass a verdict based on this testimony. Now then, Mr. Wright, if you please. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. Get my notes. Excuse me. So, would you say this knee came from the press conference? Yes. Do you know why Juan chose that event and not in that hotel for the conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved, Matt Ungard. And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews? Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference and prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. Ungard himself didn't know anything about the press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know about the press conference? Anyway, the important thing here is that the information was not in your testimony. Yes, I agree. Miss Andrews, please correct your testimony, if you please. Gasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? She's pulling out Sheena. She loves to talk shit. Anyway. I know what his motive was, but I don't have any way to prove I'm right. I'm gonna press that. Hold it! Has Mr. Ungard done something to hurt or betray you personally? Why do you ask? You were the one who helped Mr. Cordar with his press conference. And that event was supposed to bring down Mr. Ungard, yet you still helped out. The person on trial right now is Mr. Ungard, right? What the witness was thinking, helping the victim, was his plan. Is none of our concern. In any case, this means that the defendant had a motive to kill. Why do I keep doing this to myself? We'll just press. But didn't you already have... But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Ungard was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie so you could cover for Mr. Ungard? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him before the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time. I keep trying, but I find no flaws with what Miss Andrews has said. Can't say the same for some people here in this courtroom, however. The judge is glaring straight at me. He's glaring at you, smart guy. Hold it! You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and the murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja's costume. You're talking about this button, correct? That button was found in the pleats of Max Hockma. Isn't that correct? I would think that makes very decisive evidence. Oh! Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, this night doesn't prove a thing. Please, fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeats. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony. That button was torn off during his fight with Max. Really? And how did you know that? When the ends of the threads on the button and the costume were matched up, they were found to fit together perfectly, or so I heard. I heard that before too. But why would Miss Andrews know about this case down to such a fine detail? Don't look at me like that just because I'm prepared and you're not. Ugh. I thought I had her this time for sure. If there's anything to trip her upon, it has to be here. But where and what? And we press on that. But what did you really, if I can read this right, but what you really did was stab the guy in the back, didn't you? And at the worst possible time. Who's to say she's really stabbed the guy in the back, as you put it? This witness could have disclosed things about Mr. Ungard at any time. Why then would she wait until there was a large audience before doing so? It's the same reason why Mr. Corda planned such an elaborate conference. Miss Andrews wanted to cause Mr. Ungard as much damage as she possibly could. This witness bears ill will towards the defendant. This isn't the Phoenix Wright wax philosophical. What the fuck are you saying? Oh, Edgeworth, what the fuck are you saying? This is... I can't even say this right. I can try to say this right. This isn't the Phoenix... Damn! Okay, I'm cool. This isn't the Phoenix Wright Wax Philosophical Power Hour. And please stop slandering the witness. as I expected, Miss Andrews' testimony seems pretty solid. Really? Because to me it sounded like she was... Really? Because to me it sounded like a little wishy-washy. Wishy-washy? Well, I guess we'll see if I press a little more. You should know this by now. But you'll need strong, decisive evidence to make her talk. Got it, Chief. I'm going to pin it. I'm going to pin you down this time, Miss Andrews. That's what he said! And you know what? I want to pin her down too. Take her clothes off and... Oh, no. So, one thing we're going to do is do this. I'm going to present the following to you. No, back. This is. Objection! This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off of the costume. When? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly. Which means... it is impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle. Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off of the victim's already dead body. Order! Order! What is the meaning of this right? So what if the button was torn off after the victim had already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple thing, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight. So the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? What was it? To pin the crime on God. There is only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Ungod. There's no way anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. Even though that sounds so dirty right now. That's right. Mr. Ungod was set up by the real killer, of course. And the real murderer is... well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer, then? Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet, not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Ungod is... take that! Miss Adrian Andrews! I choose you! You are Mr. Corda's killer! What? right! This is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews. How preposterous! You can't stick any of that on me! I can't, can I? You can't test me. Then about this knife. The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Ungard, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you. How many glasses does she have? And then, what about the button that was found in Matt's hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only one who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Ungard was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own hakama. I'm not going to ask how. How many glasses do you carry, woman? The only person who could have put this button in Mr. Ungard's hakama is the person who went to wake him up from his nap. Which is you yet again, Miss Andrews. I see. What about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar case? It could have only been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews! But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's right. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. And to top it all off, there is this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth can believe that this nickel samurai is Mr. Ungard. He would be too much short for his own costume if it were him. She looks so sexy. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you are also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please, stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time. Miss Andrews? I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves. What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ungod's room. Angie Andrews. Yes. Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood. All right. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things looked bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. But there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single proof of definite proof. Let me read that again. Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definite proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Cooler! Miss Andrews, you... Did you want to kill Mr. Corder? I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it will be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No, she's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do? Somehow, we've landed in the worst possible situation. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof. But that's not true! In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess. Recess! I request that both the prosecution and defense look further into this matter. And at tomorrow's trial... Tomorrow? Ashita. We don't have a tomorrow! If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial. Please continue the trial! What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is... Shut up, Rick! It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Mr. Edgeworth, what are you... It's true, Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation were something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that is very true, but actually, there is one little thing that I'm curious about. Miss Andrews. When you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they're shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Testify! Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. I don't know what is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know. The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please. When I found the body, well, let's see. I got yeah, I can do this. Okay. Let's do this. When I found the body. That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Juan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something. So I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. So you pulled that glass of juice for the victim. Why do you say so in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. Edgeworth. What the heck is going on in your brain of yours? Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. It's going to be very short and sweet. 1, 2, 3. Hold it! Slumped over. Yes, he was just sitting there with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. He really looked like he was sleeping. Is it me, or did that just sound a little odd? Number 6. Press. Hold it! And how do you realize, and how do you come to realize that he was in fact dead? I shook him over and over, but I never got a response. I set the glass down on the dresser and tried to take his pulse. I was shocked and staggered backward. And knocked the flower vase over, so that's what happened. Yes. This is what it all comes down to. This is the absolute end for both sides, and Adrian is letting her guard down. Phoenix now is our best chance yet to kill the prosecution's case. Isn't that a bit harsh? Miss Andrews, will you tell us the truth this time? I think it's time to present some evidence, shall we? Objection! So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body? What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking out of Mr. Corda's chest. Anyone who saw the scene would have immediately thought that here was a dead man. Well, you see, I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted, and then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink. Your point is, Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie! And your lie has proven one thing very clearly, that you are the real killer! It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt on God, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible! You're wrong! Recording. Damn! You know when I'm recording something? Shit! But that's impossible, you're wrong. Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt, I swear, he's the one who killed one! But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because... Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. Then there is no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Madam God's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Man and God. You're kidding! Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it will be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. The absolute real truth. What are you... Witness, don't you understand yet? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head. But as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt on God will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie. I don't believe you. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be quite guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Franziska von Karma. Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another. Because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. Then, right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Matt on guard will be acquitted. Miss Andrew undoubtedly believes in those words right now, and is clinging on to them. And, well, what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get her not guilty. That's my only priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you. Please believe me. I didn't kill one. Help, please. Someone help me. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor. The court can't continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right! I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying over there. Right? Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix, right? What kind of man am I? Well, I'm going to tell you what kind of man I am right after this.